Hey Lucy, if you were secretly a shape-shifting human, you would tell me, right? Should I take that as a maybe? Animorphs was a series of books where 5 kids, and eventually more, but they're not important, could morph into animals to fight a secret alien invasion. I was absolutely engrossed by this series as a kid, and I tracked down every single book from the same local used bookstore. There were so many you could practically drown in them. It's a shame I never learned how to read. But fortunately, Animorphs is a 90s property, which means there's a PlayStation adaptation, so I don't have to read words. Hello everyone, welcome to User Error, the most self-explanatory show in gaming. I'm Sam, and today we're going to make reality cry with
a group of young heroes called the Animorphs.
Animorphs Shattered Reality was developed by SingleTrack, published by Infogrames, and released on September 6th of 2000. Over 20 years later, I'm probably the only person on planet Earth who can honestly say that I've beaten this game with a DualSense controller. That makes me special.
I am an Ellimist. Since the dawn of time, I have observed every detail of the universe.
The game's opening cutscene, narrated by this decrepit space god elf thing, basically gives you the entire plot of the game right up front. Alien worms, called Yeerks, are secretly invading Earth via involuntary brain injections. Meanwhile, the Yeerk leader, Visser 3, who lives in this blue space centaur, used a doohickey and accidentally broke the space-time continuum. And that's it. There's no explanation of what this doohickey is, or how it works, other than it's powered by continuum crystals, which we also don't know anything about, and I don't recall this game's single plot point pertaining to anything in the entire book series, so this isn't even a faithful adaptation. The game is technically a 3D platformer, although much of the level design is only in 2D, where you traverse levels as a weak-kneed human kid, and turn into animals for combat sections. You can pick whichever Animorph you'd like to play as for each level, as long as it isn't Tobias, Axe, or anyone else. So, for the first level inside the Yeerk underground base, I chose Jake, the leader of the Animorphs. This is one of those games where the level design makes zero practical sense. Platforms just float around, gears don't connect, and pistons just smash into each other, all for no discernible reason. At least the fish are in actual pools of liquid. Flying fish would have broken the immersion. Fighting in this game is really easy. Each kid will automatically transform into their different animal, that all feel and control the same, as soon as you enter into a combat arena. For instance, Jake turns into a tiger, and there are never more than 2 enemies on screen at a time, and if you just attack once, retreat, and repeat, you almost never even get hit. Good thing none of those spacefaring alien civilizations developed a single form of ranged weaponry that could counter an overgrown house cat. I never died from an actual foe throughout the entire game. Typical for platformers of the era, there are plenty of things to pick up and no in-game explanation as to what any of them are. I discovered the blue cubes are actually checkpoints, the glowing orbs are extra lives, and since there's no scorekeeping in this game, I wasn't really sure what the coins did. Do something! Clearly, I figured this had to be some sort of nihilistic social commentary about the fragility of our wealth and our consumerist culture. Please, my life is so empty. Turns out, if you collect 100 coins, you also get an extra life. Clearly, I figured this had to be some sort of empowering social commentary about integrity of business and the power of our personal financial decisions. My ulcer. It's cured. Yes, this information was in the manual that I didn't crack open until just now. Ooh, advertising. At the very end of the level, I found my first continuum crystal, and the level just ends. I've already given it more fanfare in this video than the game gave it. In between platformer levels, you have to play runner-type levels as animals on a 3D track. You can still pick your Animorph to play as, despite there being literally no difference in game because you're just assigned an animal the whole time. Speaking of which, those animals control like wonky airplanes, and you even have to accelerate them using the X button. The first runner level has you swimming through a river as a dolphin, avoiding space worms, killer clams, and haunted disembodied boat parts. And worst of all, janky physics. The next level is a cheerful jaunt in the forest. I chose Rachel this time, who happily transforms into a ferocious grizzly bear.
Woohoo!
This forest is like a second grader's dream treehouse after watching cartoons on acid. There's secret passages behind waterfalls, log paths, and treetop platforms utilizing swings, pulleys, and levers. I fell to my death a lot. In fact, I tripped off of high places enough to lose the entire war for Earth. When you lose all your lives in a level, the second of 3 total cutscenes plays out, where Axe, our Blue Centaur space buddy, is non-consensually mind-violated, and that's probably bad. The next runner level had me buzzing through a swamp as a dragonfly. I don't remember seeing any alien interference. It was just a race against Mother Nature, and I'll never look at hornets the same way again. Next up, I took everyone's second favorite wolf girl, Cassie, out for a nice night at the gardens.
Nothing like the zoo at night.
Now, I'm no plantologist, but I don't see any plants in this garden. Found him. As if flytraps the size of Volkswagens weren't bad enough, it's in these gardens that I experienced truly the worst thing a video game based on a children's book series has ever put me through. It was so heinous that I can only really describe it as a transcontinental rectal exorcism extraordinaire. Or tree for short. I experienced a tree. This glorified weed was the hardest boss in the entire game. I literally fell off slippery branches to my imminent death more times than I could count, and was forced to restart the level multiple times. Which is why I'm formally announcing my new 401c3 to support mass deforestation and wildfires. With a little tax sheltering, of course. Because no one should have to experience what I went through ever again. I think I feel my ulcer coming back. Cassie ends up in a subway under the gardens, where the next Continuum Crystal is at. Afterwards, we have to escape the dilapidated subway as a bat, where the main obstacles were the city's lax construction codes. Last up is Marco, who fancies himself as a rhino today instead of his usual gorilla. I told you it wasn't a faithful adaptation. Marco's job is to find the last crystal located at a sketchy underground production facility. Whatever the Yeerks were doing down there, they had a clear disregard for the laws of physics. Also, I think I received third-degree burns from molten craft Velveeta. Back outside, the factory had sprung a major leak and had melted the nearest highway. I had to make my way past plants that had probably mutated from overexposure to, I assume, artificial cheese product. The last Continuum Crystal was located at the top of a construction zone at the edge of town. After that, the last mission unlocked, uniquely titled, The Finale. Somehow, the actual level is more boring than the title. No one even attempted to theme these platforms. And at the end, the hell is that supposed to be? You know what? The game's almost over. I'm not going to start caring now. Fearing neither pain nor death, I proudly rushed into battle. I said I proudly rushed into battle. The boss just stands there on his tiny platform for the entire fight. The donut-shaped platform around him occasionally drops into the abyss. Not that I found that out the hard way. The game requires you to switch between platforms surrounding the boss during the abyss drop in order to arbitrarily make the boss vulnerable. After cycling through the platforms, I won. And I finished only 13 seconds shy of... I have no idea what that clock was for. The Animorphs succeed in finding the reality-screwing doohickey, and Axe shoves a Continuum Crystal in it. Then, everyone stands around like a bunch of morons. Congratulations, everyone. I guess reality got a job and reconciled with its father, so it's all good now. As an old fan of Animorphs, that was bad. I might be terrible at platformers, but even I can recognize a sloppy one with horrendous physics and the most pointless combat sections I have ever seen. The plot, if you're generous enough to call it that, and the level design are so incomprehensible, I don't know what to do with them. I can't even explain how reality was shattered. And that's the title of the game. If that's not false advertising, I don't know what is. Sad to say, there genuinely isn't anything here worth playing for anyone. And my expectations for this game were low. But I didn't expect it to ruin my life. Because I will never be able to look at a tree the same way again.
I know what you've done.